guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
The combine now. Time for the combine now. Time for running those 40-yard dashes. The three-cone drill. Time for the three-cone drill.
Stop. I'm tearing up.
Are you going to just kind of belly up at a bar and just watch 8 unabated, uninterrupted hours of combine coverage this weekend,
Just
Judd?
with the football field in the background and guys in their underwear running as fast as they can. Coming up next, here's a guy.
I'd like to run the 40.
Really?
I'd like to run the 40. Yeah, I would. Genuinely, I would
We
like
can make
to
that
run
happen
the 40.
on the
can
Score North
arrange that.
YouTube channel. Yeah.
I think I can get under 5.
Okay.
I think I can get under 5.
Dude, I feel like I think the radio and podcast guys and TV guys doing the combine drills is kind of an overplayed bit. But I think Declan running a 40 here. What are the stakes? Are you putting something up for? So you think you can get under 5?
Yeah.
If you
I'm
don't,
quick.
what happens? We should think this through here. Maybe we can do it on Monday.
Yeah, we should act. And then can we do this at Boone? Boone's thing? Does he have like at least 40 yards?
Yes, we
of
could
field, maybe?
actually. Oh my God!
And
He would.
can
He
you
absolutely
him out
does. It's
too?
indoors too, so it could be. You wouldn't have to face the wind coming in your face.
Judd, you got something you want to say there?
No, I said, can we like turn this into a combine centric thing where you also
Oh, I'm
have to
not
lift
bench
some
pressing. I'm not
weights?
bench pressing.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
I
Can you
have
lift
the
some
upper
weights?
body strength of a 7-year-old. There's no chance.
Declan bench press the bar is the question.
Boone's gonna make me do. If I do it,
That's
he's
what I was
like,
gonna say.
"We're
If you show up at
we're
Boone's
bench pressing,
place,
bro. We're bench
You're not
pressing, bro."
getting away with just a 40. There's
I'll
no
reach
way.
out. I'll reach out. Although I think him and Serials I think they both were at the combine. They they got a couple kids that John Michael Schmitz has been training and stuff. But I'll see. I reached out to him a couple days ago. He hasn't gotten back to me yet. Maybe he's just ghosting me at this point. Once the season's over, Boone's just like in full combine training mode. We should let's just crash. We could just walk in. Let's just go crash his place. Declan's
Boone's
running a
goal-
40 right now. Move out of the way. Okay.
Without question, would be to get Declan to puke. That would be Boone's goal.
I think I think all three of us would be in danger of puking
Oh, I'm
within
not
about
showing.
7
I'm not
minutes
gonna,
of a Boone
I'm not
workout,
showing
so.
up at this. I'm not showing up because I'm not doing anything. You call me and tell me about it.
It's Feedback Friday here on Mackey and Judd, and also over on Purple Daily, where we take all of your comments, concerns, questions, critiques, and we get to as many of them as possible here. A lot of Viking stuff as the free agency period looms in about a week and a half. Tim from Washington chimes in and says, let's say that Kwesi and KOC decide to completely overlook plain evidence to the contrary and march ahead with Kirk Cousins, believing they can win a championship with him. Then let's say the experiment goes exactly where I think it will, which is right into the toilet.
Wow.
Tim is very high on Cousins, as you can see here.
Clearly.
Do we then turn around and give the GM and the coach another run at things with a new quarterback, or do we tell them that they've had their chance, couldn't learn from the previous regime's mistakes, let alone their own, and go find yet another coach and GM? Do they get that much leeway? What are your thoughts? I mean, maybe I can reframe this instead of it being
Cousins hate.
a hate on Kirk session.
Yes.
How long will Kwesi and KOC? Because they took over a team that was competitive, right? And tweaked it to be a 13-win team. Mm-hmm. So they're riding out this current wave. If and when they do move to another quarterback, how many years into the Kirk thing do they get, and also get to find Kirk's replacement? If let's say they do sign him to like a 4-year extension.
Yeah.
Do they get to ride that out and then find the next quarterback after Kirk, or what is the shelf life for these guys?
Well, I think a big part of this process is what is the contract. So like it could be, let's say it's 3 years. It can't be all guaranteed, right? So I think that there's I think financially there's a discussion here as well as far as what Kirk is getting. Do I think that these guys have decided Kirk can't win a championship? I have absolutely no clue. And I would not say for sure that the answer is yes, they have decided he can't win a championship. But I really think from a roster construction standpoint and finding Kirk's replacement, it's going to come down to this. How are you going to spend your money? And if you're guaranteeing, again, as they have previously, every last dollar to Kirk, I think that's going to seem irresponsible. So I think it's more nuanced than just Kirk Cousins. I think it's Kirk Cousins and his contract, what he's making, and how you can build around that, which of course has been a topic of this show for how long now? 5 years.
Yeah. Well, real quick, you just texted us this as we were going live here. So they're clearly, I know that every team does due diligence on every player, and every team talks to quarterbacks and stuff, but they've already met with Anthony Richardson. And Vikes Insider Twitter account, you just sent us this link, Judd. They posted a video of Will Levis being asked at the podium, did any teams do any outside the box interviewing tactics with you this week? And he mentioned the Vikings. I haven't listened to this. I might just put this up to the microphone.
I have not either.
It's like a 30-second clip, but they're clearly sniffing around quarterbacks at the draft, right? Like, maybe this is all part of their process with any player,
right.
But putting a quarterback through the ringer like this, I kind of want to hear what he says.
Here, give me 2 minutes and I can load it into StreamYard.
Okay.
Certificate,
Even better. Even better. Executive
You're saying that
producer,
might be better than me holding this up to the microphone?
Yes.
The look of disgust on Declan's face when you suggested that you
How
might
dare
do
you.
something so Zolgadian.
Minnesota had a football. So I just had to-
God.
Actually, you know what? That sounded fine to me. That sounded fine to my ears. Phil Mackey doing a hell of a job.
I'll let Declan grab it.
But yes, they are doing, and I'm positive it was Doogie on our scoop session on Thursday who brought Levis's name up and said the Vikings definitely like him.
Yeah.
And so yes, they are, and you know what? They need to be. Like O'Connell at his podium session at the Combine talked extensively about developing a quarterback and how it's difficult and what you look for and how on and off the field, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, but anybody who thinks that, well, they're just going to be, it's Kirk's show until Kirk is gone, that's not why they're here. Like, they should be doing this, and they should be identifying the type of quarterback, whether they're going to get him or not, that they perceive as the eventual franchise quarterback here.
What's interesting, too, is like with Rick Spielman, by the end, you could pretty much predict within reason what his tendencies were, right? He was so shell-shocked by the whiff on Christian Ponder, by T-Jack didn't develop the way that they had hoped. Not that Rick, did Rick make that T-Jack pick, or did he come along after?
He came after. That was Brad. Childress made that pick. But Teddy broke his leg, which was also another huge setback.
But you could kind of, and maybe he did have a little gamble in him that just never came out, but Rick wasn't going to trade up 10 picks for a quarterback. Right, unless I'm forgetting something. They didn't trade up for Ponder, right?
Yeah, they did make inquiries about trading up for Justin Fields.
But ultimately they didn't.
The Bears swooped in and said, we'll give you more. And the Vikings were like, we're out. So
yeah, so Rick always felt like he was kind of the tight player at the poker table that was waiting for the good hands to come to him rather than pushing the action. He'd rather fold and keep his chip stack and trade back and play it safe. You avoid criticism that way. We don't know yet we know that Kwesi loves to trade in the draft because we've already seen it. We know that he loves to trade, period. Hawkinson and Rager and all these guys. The range of things that he could do in a draft is very much unknown, but we know that he's got an aggressive streak to him. Could he decide through this process, wow, if one of these quarterbacks that we like falls past 5, we'd be willing to move up 15 picks to go get that guy? That type of gamble might exist within Kwesi that didn't exist within Rick, and we don't know yet.
Well, and let's construct this too from a personality and thought process. In Rick Spielman's case, because I've always said, I think Bridgewater was a product of Norv Turner saying, draft him. I like him a lot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Rick listened to people, but Rick was also a football guy. Kwesi's not. Kwesi's not a football guy. He's not a scout. So it's my belief that Kevin O'Connell is calling the shots. And Kwesi then does the math on it, right? And so, yes, it would be his gamble, but it would be done on O'Connell, who if you're going to trust a person, I would far rather have an offensive head coach I trust. And so I think this gets down to initially, Phil, is the system of how it's going to work. Because, I don't think Kwesi's watching film and saying, yeah, we're going to go get him. I think he's involved, but I don't think he's identifying. I think O'Connell is. And so that's where this process gets intriguing because basically now it comes down to, as Kwesi did in Wall Street, he's managing the assets and things, but he also has the traders and the people around him. And I think in O'Connell's case, a pretty smart one, saying this is the one to go in on.
The other crazy thing about, like, whatever, I think it's a low percentage chance the Vikings draft a quarterback in the first round this year for a number of different reasons. Number one being where they're slotted. They're slotted 23. It's pretty likely that those 4 guys are going to go in the top 10. But they're not going to know if they're going to draft a quarterback in the first round until the draft starts. That's the thing. Like, you can't sit here now. You can't talk to Will Levis and Anthony Richardson and these guys, have a great opinion of them, and then decide after the combine, we are going to draft Will Levis. Because the Texans could trade up to number 1 and draft Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. So what a weird, inexact blueprint that you have to sort of lay out there, is that you're working with trying to figure out what to do with Kirk here at extension. Do you ride it out? And then you have to wait another 2 months before you see how the draft plays out live, before you then say, oh, okay, holy crap, Anthony Richardson's available at number 8 here. Can we jump the Panthers, trade up 14 spots or whatever? You're not going to know for 2 more months. So, all right, is this clip worth it?
I think so. Yeah. So the first half of the clip is them asking like the question of anyone do anything weird, and this is what he said about what the Vikings did.
The only thing I can think of, Minnesota had a football, so they just had you kind of have a football in your hands, which is nice because I like having kind of something to play around with. But I don't know if it's because they wanted to see how big my hands were or something. But no basketball hoops, but I would have enjoyed that.
Well, you went.
I'm comfortable. They made him feel at home. They gave him a baby blankie for a quarterback.
Okay, help me. Why would they? What are the reasons they would give him a football? I get that it's a football draft and a football combine, but it doesn't sound like he said. So he was asked, "What did a team do anything weird?" Yeah. And he classified a team giving him a football, the Vikings, as being a weird thing. So I'm assuming that they don't all just like these players don't just like have footballs in these meetings. Why?
Put you at ease, because I think it could, because you go and sit in a hotel suite with your hands folded, right? Okay, Will, you tell us about this and you tell us about that. Because O'Connell also said that one thing that they do, and I'm sure this is done by a few teams, is they also are very deliberate about saying, okay, we've asked you a bunch of questions. What are your questions about us?
You can't talk unless you're holding the football. Maybe that's
so I think that they're, but you know what? If a quarterback is allowed to hold a football, it sounds weird, but I sort of get it.
I would just have the NFL Network chimes playing in the background the whole time.
See? And that would put people at
Will,
ease.
tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Will,
you have a father figure in your life, Will?
Do you aspire to play on Sunday night, and then you put the Sunday night theme in? And then you just keep the themes going. How about the Fox game? What if you're playing with Kenny Albert as your announcer?
I don't have that one here, but what if you're playing 1990s NBA on NBC? Yes, Marvel from downtown. Yes.
But giving Will Levis a football interview is like Dan Seaman giving Judd a beer before he starts interviewing him. Like he's just put at ease, right? Like he's holding a beer. Will Levis is holding his football. Like it just puts the guy at ease.
A cold.
You want to see if he fumbles too? If he fumbles at any point in the 15-minute interview, ball security is a problem.
He's like going like that.
Oh God!
The ball's out. Crazy just dives on it.
This is ball security. All right. Since we're recklessly speculating here. McLovin, formerly from the Dan Patrick Show, Andrew Perloff now has his own show. Is it CBS Sports Radio?
Yes,
I think.
CBS.
Right?
Serious or yeah.
So he threw this out randomly yesterday on Twitter. It gained a ton of traction. How about the 49ers trade Minnesota native Trey Lance, a good defensive player, and a future first-round pick, so a 24 first-round pick, to the Vikings for Kirk Cousins? Would you guys? Who says no?
Well, that's what we've talked about, right?
Dude, I run to the window.
But I mean, that's what
I'm the Vikings.
That's what we've talked about. I don't think they're going to get that much. I don't think the Vikings are going to get that much back. If they'll make that trade and Kirk will sign an extension in San Fran, then yes, I make that trade. I think they like Trey Lance. I think they're intrigued. So yeah, I'd make that trade.
Interesting.
I'd probably make it, but yeah, I don't think you'd get that much of a haul for Kirk.
I agree completely.
You'd be getting a potential. He's a project still, Trey Lance. You'd be getting 3 years of a potential franchise quarterback that you could see about, a good defensive player, and a first-round pick.
Yeah, I don't see the first-round pick, and plus, I don't think San Francisco can make that trade because while Trey Lance remains a project and an unknown, they gave up so much to get him. He was the third overall pick.
But if your goal is to win a Super Bowl this year or next year and you're San Francisco, you can't worry about the sunk cost that went into acquiring Trey Lance. Like, but that's almost a non-factor.
I think that first-round pick becomes more like a fourth-round pick.
Would you do it then? Trey Lance, a good defensive player. I'd like to know who that good defensive player is, what position they play, and a let's say a third this year.
I'd be intrigued.
I'd do it. Hell yeah.
I'd be very intrigued.
All right, Sam Hansen says, with the sudden and concerning character and conduct concerns surrounding Jalen Carter, it feels like he's no longer a lock for a top 5 pick. If he starts to fall near the Vikings, do you take a chance on drafting him based on pure talent falling to you? Well, the Vikings historically have absolutely taken chances on guys for a variety of reasons. Randy Moss, character concerns, arrest, right? Percy Harvin with his weed problem or whatever he was going through.
They didn't on Warren Sapp and regretted it for a long, long time.
No.
Yes, if that kid fell to me at 23,
Everson Griffin had some problems.
I take him. He's not going to jail for an extended time. It's misdemeanors. What he did was terrible, but yes, it's football. I take him.
Sandy Bowe says, when releasing a defensive player, how do you know if the problem last season was the player or Donatel? So like Eric Kendricks or...
Yeah, I mean, speed is part of it. And Donatel, look, he was a problem. There's no question about it. But you also continue to bring back a lot of older guys. And when you watched, and I'm not saying Kendricks couldn't come back and be better, but it's an easy way to trim room, and he's closer to the end than the start. And I think I can replace him. Jordan Hicks, the same exact way. I don't think we're talking about cutting young players who didn't thrive with Ed. I think we're talking about salary cap casualties of veterans. And that's just something you need to do. Like, I'm not looking to, man, Eric Kendricks, I'd sure love him to retire as a Viking. I'm looking at how can I free up room and can I get younger and quicker?
Yeah. Age and speed, almost regardless of, maybe the defense was even better last year, but you'd still be looking at half these guys and saying, okay, your age starts with a 3 and you're constantly trailing behind running backs, tight ends, scrambling quarterbacks. This is the other thing in the NFL now. I feel like half the quarterbacks in the league, even the pocket passer types, are all so much more athletic and faster than we've ever seen. There's very few Peyton Manning, Tom Brady types, Matt Ryans that are just standing there like sitting ducks. Mm-hmm. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Geno Smith. Even like the borderline guys. Like Geno Smith is is he a starter? Is he not? I don't know. But I know he can move. He can avoid pressure. So your linebackers, it's not just about stopping the run anymore and whatever else it may be. It's, can you keep up with quarterbacks like Daniel Jones that run out of the pocket, prevent him from going for 70 yards?
The good thing about football as well, especially veteran players, is it's smart to cut a year early than a year late. So like how many times have you seen a veteran get cut, like a linebacker, right? Yeah. And been like, oh my God, did that team make a mistake? It's very rare. Now, young players, yes, that's a developmental thing. But like, it's very, very rare, in my opinion, where we're like, boy, that was a terrible 32-year-old, 33-year-old to cut.
Mike Shea chimes in here. It's funny the conversation has gone from Kirk's contract being too expensive, you can't afford to pay one player that much money, to now Purple Daily and Mackey and Judd have a big hard-on for Justin Jefferson about to make $35 million. Laugh out loud.
Oh, my goodness, using nasty language on Purple Daily. And Mackey.
Do you want to, listen, we definitely have been open and favorable to the idea of Justin Jefferson making a bunch of money, and we've complained about Kirk Cousins' contract. Yeah. So how is that not hypocritical, I guess?
Well, one is I don't love having to pay Jefferson what you're going to, but you have to. And I explain this. This is very, very simple. Kirk Cousins is a borderline top 10 or slightly outside quarterback in the National Football League, which is great. Fantastic. We all love that. Justin Jefferson is arguably the best receiver in the league, and he's in the top 3. That's how I can explain it. If you came back and said Kirk Cousins next year is going to be a top 3 quarterback, he's going to be unbelievable, and you're not going, he's going to turn into a Tom Brady in his prime, I'd be like, okay.
Yep. That's how I view it all as sort of market values. Mm-hmm. You obviously can't pay if you have a great roster, you can't pay all of them top market value, or you're going to run out of salary cap space. You're going to have a thin team, which is actually kind of what's happened to the Vikings. Harrison Smith is making top of his position money or close to it. Adam Thielen is making close to it. Kirk Cousins is making close to it. Dalvin, it's like, okay, well, congratulations. These guys are all getting market value. So if you have to pick and choose, I'd rather pay the best wide receiver top market value than a non-top 3 or top 5 quarterback, the third highest cap hit. I don't know how many times can explain that. I'll pay a top edge rusher. I won't pay the 14th best edge rusher or linebacker, right?
And also, let's see how much guaranteed money Jefferson gets as well. Because keep in mind, every one of Kirk's contracts is fully guaranteed. Ordinary in baseball, hockey, and basketball, very rare in football.
Yeah. Let's see here. Southern Exile chimes in. Because you asked our opinion regarding Monday's episode concerning Kirk, here's what I say. Let the man play out the last year. It seems like one of two things would happen. One, he throws a tantrum and reveals he's only in it for the money and squirms out of his no-trade clause, and the Vikings move him somewhere. Or two, he Bradberries it and plays out of his mind to prove to us he's worth it and to audition for potential suitors in 2024. In that second scenario, we get the best out of him because his back is against the wall and he's motivated to prove something. What do you think? So Kirk Cousins, the last time he was in a true contract year was that last year in Washington where they'd franchised him twice. They were unlikely to franchise him a third time, and that's when the Vikings came in. And he was that the year that he did the "you like that" thing where he was all fired up? They won like 8 games or something, but
I don't remember.
I don't remember. I think it might have been the year before.
Okay. But that last year, it was 2017 was his last year in Washington. And, he put up 4,000 yards in 16 games. He had, it was actually not his best season in Washington, but maybe that's a sign, actually. It looks like it was his worst season in Washington of the 3 years he was a starter, was the contract year. So maybe that's a telltale sign. I don't know.
Kirk might, I think Kirk is going to, again, go after a fully guaranteed contract. I don't think he's going to get that here. Now, I don't know if he would then back off and try and get a 3-year deal that had more flexibility for the Vikings. But, I don't know what would happen. So I sort of agree with this. Like, if he has to play out the contract, 1, that's fine to me. 2, I don't think he would completely melt down or something. I think that there's a certain amount of folks that think that he would short circuit and just melt. I don't think he would. I think he'd be okay. But keep in mind too, in fairness to Kirk, 2022 was certainly not for a long time his best year statistically. And they won 13 games. And in the regular season, he was fantastic. Yeah. So I'd be more than willing, though, to let this ride. I think for the good of the franchise, that would not be a bad thing.
Bob says, guys, please stop elevating JJ to sainthood. He's a wide receiver, and regardless of the contract they give him, at some point not far into the future, he will act out, pout, and become a problem. Write that down. KOC and Kwesi's coddling of JJ is maddeningly disturbing and an eerie reminder back to the days of the Randy ratio. This type of coddling and appeasing should only be reserved for a quarterback and not a wide receiver. Would you be worried about that?
I haven't seen it yet. And you know what? For a long time in our radio days, Phil, we talked about Diggs because Diggs did not melt down for a long time, and then eventually he did. It's why I said yesterday, I'm willing to see Justin Jefferson treated like this until he proves he shouldn't be. And so far, he has not. And I can't go based on fear of, well, in 6 months, he's going to become a diva, right? Until he does that. And so far, I don't think we have seen anything, correct me if I'm wrong, that paints him as a diva type of player. And we are dealing, again, with one of the best players at his position in the entire league. And to me, that changes things. To me, that completely changes things. It's why the Vikings at times have dealt with players who might be top 10, fringe top 10 guys. And I'm like, you really want to do that? But Jefferson's a special case. And so, like, what are they supposed to do? Like, are they supposed to treat him like he's Thielen right now? Like,
I don't think they're.
That's my question.
When I think of coddling, I think of someone who doesn't deserve the treatment is getting the treatment.
Sure.
That's when I hear the word coddling, I think of it as like a negative term, that someone is like, you know, you need to check them on something, but you're not. And I don't think JJ needs to be checked. In fact, there's been times where he's made mistakes running routes lead to interceptions, and Kevin O'Connell will say it, I'm sure. And there's conversations on the sidelines and stuff. So to this point, he has earned a contract. He has earned a minor say in sort of like the scheming and maybe even some personnel. I don't think you would give him like the keys to like decide who the next quarterback is, but until he does or says something outlandish. I mean, Randy Moss had some warning signs going back to when he was a teenager. Okay.
Oh yeah.
You knew that there was some immaturity in there that was going to take a while to flesh out. Justin Jefferson has been a different story to this point. Mm-hmm. So that's my 2 cents. By the way, if you're a golf nerd, I know Declan's been sweating the.
God.
Is it the Arnold Palmer this week?
Dude, Rambo just melted down on the back nine here of round 2.
Should have faded Declan.
Fade my picks, man. I'm telling you.
Well, you could fade his picks on Underdog, but if you just want to get out and golf on your own, 14 rounds of golf for $90. 14 rounds of golf for $90 through the Minnesota Golf Passport. It's back. It's available now at scorenorth.com. That's SKORnorth.com. Again, that's a lot of golf for not a lot of money. And you can go to scorenorth.com, type in keyword passport, and buy your Minnesota Golf Passport before they're gone. There's a limited number. Some of the courses, the Refuge, Purple Hawk, New Ulm Country Club, Bull Rush, Elk River Golf Club, Whispering Pines, Chamonix, Dahlgreen, Golden Eagle, and more. A bunch of great courses. Check them out. Minnesota Golf Passport. That's keyword passport at scorenorth.com. Okay, next one here on Feedback Friday. This one's actually from just the internet. A guy named Sahil Bloom tweeted out this thought experiment. Okay, you might want to write this down, Judd.
I already did study it.
Okay, good.
Yep, I got my
so
prep done on that.
I have not thought about this at all, so I'll just make a decision on the fly here. You are in an arena somehow. You're in an arena. Somehow you've wound up in this position.
The Coliseum.
With 50 hawks, 10 crocodiles. That's like actual hawks, not like Dominique Wilkins and Trey Young.
That's what I was going to say.
Or like Russell Wilson and
Kevin
Bobby
Willis?
Wagner.
Kevin Willis could kick my ass.
50 hawks, 10 crocodiles, 3 brown bears, 15 wolves, 1 hunter with a rifle, 7 buffalo, 10,000 rats, 5 gorillas, 4 lions. Pick 2 of these groups to defend you. The others try to attack you. You have to survive for an hour.
Yep.
What do you pick?
This is actually difficult, and I went through about 3 or 4 permeations of this. But then I started to do some research. Because I figure this sounds intimidating, but then I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? I bet there's some of these creatures that we perceive because they're big and we perceive them as nasty, but they're not as bad as we think. And they can be subdued more as far as your demeanor goes and things like that. And then I saw the guy with the gun. I'm like, well, the guy with the gun would be intriguing, but he'd only have X amount of bullets, and it'd probably be a hunting rifle, and he'd have to reload or something like that. He's going to die himself. So here's what I ended up with, okay? In doing research, I'm taking 7 buffalo. Because buffalo evidently are nasty. They're mean.
But you got to keep in mind, too, you're in an arena. The buffalo can't, like, go other places. The buffalo are just sitting ducks in the middle of the arena, right?
I agree.
For what?
What do you mean?
But we're going up against some passive creatures here,
He's looking at the defense. I think he's looking at the buffaloes as defense.
Yeah,
which
But they're just gonna be like the slowest moving.
Yeah, this is a Donatel strategy. I don't know
if I decide like, all right, it's an arena. Let's get creative here. Okay, let's go into the locker room. Let's be mobile. Let's get up, go up in the upper deck here. Okay.
Yep.
The buffalo can't come with. You're gonna bring a buffalo up to the middle of the upper deck.
I'm not going. No. I'm standing right in the middle of that thing. I'm coaching this baby up,
dude.
I'm coaching this thing up. And look, the buffalo.
Idea,
you got to get to high ground. You got to get to high ground.
The buffalo are mean. I'm going buffalo, and then the second thing. And this is at first I thought big mistake, and then I saw it and I really liked it. I'm going with the 10 crocodiles. Great jaw strength.
You're screwed,
and
dude.
They're
I
fast.
think those are two of the worst options.
And they're
in
fast.
fact, dude, I actually marked crocodiles, buffalo, and rats as irrelevant in this whole exercise.
Interesting.
Crocodile. I thought the same thing about crocodiles until I did research, and then crocodiles.
Where'd you go? Like
can make up
crocodiles
for the lack of speed from the buffalo. The buffalo are just going to kill. The crocodiles are going to use their speed.
Are going to kill gorillas, lions, and crocodiles.
No, the rest of these. See, this is the thing. I looked it up. I Googled it. I went through all of. You're assuming that animals that aren't aggressive will be aggressive. Buffalo are mean SOBs.
Right, but there's only 7 of them. There's 15 wolves and 4 lions.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, but guess what? Too passive. So they're in a prevent 2 shell. Buffalo are going to kill them because they don't like them.
Here's where I'm at with this. If you're thinking about being on the floor of the arena here, okay? This is an arena, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm for sure. I'm going high ground. I'm taking the hunter with the rifle is on my team. So I'm going high ground. Unless you think that one of these groups could just kill the hunter with the rifle. But if the hunter with the rifle sits up top, if it's a sniper rifle or something,
I'd get him.
I don't. That's my question. What do
it's
the
a
Hawks?
hunting rifle. It's too slow.
And by the way,
it's a machine gun, I go machine gun, dude.
10,000 rats in an arena of like 15 or 20,000 seats and stuff. You'd be surprised at how widespread those rats are going to be, and they're going to stay down on the bottom floor mostly.
I completely disagree. So I take the
upper
10,
deck. You're
rats.
fine from the rats.
No, I take the 10,000 rats.
What are they going to do?
10,000
How are you going to
rats.
get off the floor though? You've got these creatures who some want to kill you. When you go up, they might get you.
Well, is there a rule that says you have to all start at like the center court?
I perceive this as you're starting all on equal ground.
So then, could you outrun animals to get up to the upper deck? Is the question.
No,
probably not.
But again, you're assuming that the 4 lions. Well, I guess their mission would be to attack you, so they would be going after you.
I would take the 10,000 rats, and I would take the 5 gorillas. I would take one of those gorillas, hop on his back, and the other 5 gorillas are going to attack all these other dudes. I take the 10,000 rats. Rats swarming all of these things, dude.
I would take the hunter with the rifle and the 50 hawks, and I would try to get up to the catwalk.
Okay. The hawks are
and I'd be protected by the hawks and the hunter with the rifle on the catwalk.
The hawks are going to kill the rats, and the crocodiles are too. Those 10,000 rats are going to be an appetizer.
That's the thing. If you leave the rats out there, it's very possible that like half these other animals just like get distracted by trying to eat 10,000 rats.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is there's a large degree of actually very passive creatures here who, if you don't piss them off, won't try to kill you. And then I'm picking the most aggressive. I looked it up. The buffalo, surprisingly.
What are these mysterious sites that you're like looking up?
I went to Google. I went to Google and I put in every one of these creatures and I said, are they aggressive? And will they kill you? And you'd be surprised at the amount of again, 2 shell safeties that I found among these creatures.
I think Declan, I think you're maybe both you guys. I get that 10,000 rats makes your skin crawl. But if you go to like a wild game, let's use the X for an example, okay?
Okay.
If there are 10,000 people in the seats, it would look empty. If you had 10,000 people in the X, it looks empty. 10,000 rats is a drop in the bucket in an arena, man. I don't want to be around 10,000 rats. I'm just saying, like, it's not like the rats are going to be piled up halfway up to your neck or anything like that.
I mean, but if the X seats 18,000, so they're close to 60% of the capacity of a seat. So in the same seat, I know the rats are
humans,
the size of are humans versus rats, but I take the rats and I take the gorillas. Give me the damn gorillas. The Buffalo are irrelevant to me. The Wolves scare me. The Brown Bears scare me. And the Lions, I mean, yeah, Lions pretty terrifying, I guess.
And Lions and Wolves, if you're talking about like bouncing around the arena, they can easily like climb steps, jump up. Like
I'm going,
And Bears can too, a little slower, but Bears can do the, like in terms of what could get up to a catwalk though. You got to keep in mind too, if you can just like get behind a door somewhere, some of these animals, like a crocodile, can't open a door. These animals are idiots.
Right.
Now, a gorilla might be able to open a door. So maybe you want the gorillas on your team.
Disposable thumbs, dude. Give me the disposable thumbs.
I'm telling you, if you all start off on the floor of the arena, you ain't getting off that floor.
And maybe the spirit of this is you're supposed to technically be on the floor of the arena.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of hiding.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking of how am I going to use my friends against these creatures. I know, the hunter is dead.
When you were doing this research, was Dawn present, or were you running into this by Dawn when you're researching all of these options? Because I would be very curious to hear, like, you're just like, I can see Judd verbally taking notes out loud over the Buffalo.
I sat in my office, I looked through and Googled every one of these, and there were some I assumed were aggressive, and they're not as, like, wolves aren't as aggressive as I thought.
Well, it's going to be awfully suspicious when someone listens to one of our Angry Timberwolves podcasts and then checks your Google history for how to kill 15 wolves. A little suspicious.
That's a good point. That's a very
he
good
must
point.
really hate this team.
He must have, like, is Chris Finch aggressive?
The novelist chimes in here on Twitter and says, I want to know what Phil Mackey's top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time are. Wow. Well, then, I happen to have a list, just always on the top of my head.
Too. Yeah.
So I'm a 90s wrestling guy. Got to admit, I'm a 90s wrestling guy. And so for me, it's The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's Shawn Michaels. I was a big Ultimate Warrior guy as a kid. Oh. I was more of an Ultimate Warrior guy over Hulk Hogan. So nostalgically, I'm going Ultimate Warrior. And I think for the 5th one, I grew up on Hulk Hogan, but I'm going to go Chris Jericho, man.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
I love me some Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Give me some walls of Jericho. So The Rock, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, Ultimate Warrior, Chris Jericho. Honorable mentions for me, Undertaker, Ric Flair, and MJF.
There's just 15 honorable mentions for you.
Kane, X-Pac.
So I appreciated the Attitude Era, and I went back and watched a lot of it, but I didn't necessarily really understand it enough. So I have top 5, but they're all like post-Attitude into the ruthless aggression era for the most part. HBK is my number 1. He is my George Washington on my 5 Mount Rushmore, but he is number 1. I think he's the best performer of all time. I have Rob Van Dam as 2nd. I think RVD was an incredible, obviously talent. One of the most over dudes of, like, I think he won Wrestler of the Year on Pro Wrestling Observer, like, back-to-back years. In my opinion, he
couldn't talk on a mic to save his life. But
he was okay. He wasn't great on the mic. He was okay. But he was so over with the fans. By the time he was champion, it was just kind of too late. I will always have a soft spot for Jeff Hardy. I know the dude has self-inflicted himself a lot of different wounds out of the ring. But that is just like RVD. I mean, when his music hits, the entire arena is just on their feet and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 for me, Triple H. Obviously, I love the game. I hated him so much as a kid because he just played the villain so well, but that means it worked. And then 5th for me, Kurt Angle. I think just in terms
Kurt Angle's a good one.
Of actual wrestling talent, Kurt Angle is probably like the most talented technical wrestler of all time.
He's also one of the most hilarious on the microphone too. He was great. Just like obnoxious, funny. Love it, man. It's pretty good. Yeah. Judd, do you have? Can you name 5 wrestlers?
I got 5
that we didn't just.
I just wrote down 5.
Okay.
Number 5, legendary Vern Gagne.
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
Number 4.
Okay, I can't. I don't want to reveal too much information, but I heard a story from someone yesterday.
See?
That like when Vern had some dementia, that like when he was in the nursing home, he would like go back in his mind to the wrestling training days and would like put people in the nursing home in headlocks and stuff.
Really?
I am all topic within that topic. My aunt married a Gagne. And so I've heard also very similar things about that exact thing before.
That's
pretty wild.
That's too bad, man.
That's scary. Number 4, Nick Bockwinkel.
Blonde, big blonde hair. Yeah.
Number 3, Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh, the
Sergeant
Sarge.
Slaughter and I follow each other on Twitter.
Yeah, he follows me too. I love the Sarge.
Big Vikings fan.
Yep.
Number 2, George the Animal Steel.
Of course.
George the Animal Steel could use Manscaped. Manscaped.com promo code purple.
Yeah.
That's manscaped.com promo code purple.
A lot of hair on the back.
The lawnmower.
Perhaps why I like him. And then number one, the legendary Gorgeous George.
Okay. Gorgeous George. Is that AWA?
Oh, Gorgeous George was 60s. Barnstorming wrestler. Gorgeous George was very famous at the time.
Wow, born in 1915. My God.
Gorgeous George was one of the first, I think, big name got the whole shtick thing.
Yeah, he was okay. Yeah, I see. So his shtick has been copied a couple times. I can see like Ric Flair had a little of this, like the robe kind of a thing.
Yes.
Adrian Adonis came along.
Flair's a good one. Yep. So right there.
Wow, look at that.
Old school.
Love it, man. You're not going to get a wrestling breakdown like that.
What the Rock is cooking.
There's your feedback Friday here. Let us know too which of those animals would you pick to defend you in an arena.
Yeah.
Let us know in the YouTube comment section or tweet at us here. Mackey and Judd and Purple Daily are 2 daily shows. If you could give those shows 5-star ratings and a positive review on Apple Podcasts, it helps spread the word about this Minnesota sports fan community that you guys are helping us build. We'll see you guys next week.